What's up, family? Welcome back to Freedom Found Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Amy P. And today we're tackling the tension nobody really wants to talk about. You know what it is? It's that feeling when everything in you is screaming, leave, but everything around you is probably actually saying you need to stay. When you've outgrown this role, but the bills haven't outgrown your paycheck, huh? When you're spiritually ready for more, but practically stuck where you're at or where you are, okay? If you've ever felt trapped between God's timing and your own timeline, this episode is going to be for you, because sometimes the most spiritual thing you actually can do is just stay planted when everything inside of you actually wants to run, all right? So let's get into this episode.
You're looking for the freedom found.
All right, let me paint the picture for you guys, okay? Because I know some of you are living this out right now. I mean, I've faced this. I've coached people through this situation. I want to paint the picture for you. So you're in a job that used to challenge you, but now it just feels like you just showing up for the paycheck. You just sleepwalking through the days, just there to collect your paycheck. Maybe you're in a season that used to excite you, but now it just feels like you're stuck, like you're stuck in some type of spiritual quicksand and you're just waiting for God to move. Or you may be in a place where, it used to fit you. It used to fit all your skills and your dreams and your visions and all those things. But now it just feels like you wearing these clothes that don't fit you no more. You got on a jacket that don't fit you. It's just too small. And every well-meaning good person on the planet in your life is actually saying, hey, you should be grateful for this job. At least you have a job, right? Or God he wants you there for a reason. Like there's something you need to do. So there's a reason why you're there. But here's what they don't understand. You can be grateful and outgrown at the same time. You can appreciate where you've been and be ready for where you're going all at the same time. The problem isn't that you're ungrateful. The problem is that you're probably trying to figure out the difference between God actually asking you to wait versus God asking you to leave. This is what I deal with sometimes when I'm trying to make a decision. I have to really get in the word. I have to separate myself. I have to hear from God very clearly, because I'm dealing with that. God, is this you or is this my emotions? What's happening here? So I have to use everything that I'm sharing with you in this series are steps that I've taken to make decisions in my life. So, you probably are balancing that question yourself. You're dealing with contentment versus complacency, not the same thing. You may be dealing with patience versus passivity. They're not the same thing. It gets a little tricky because the enemy, he likes to come in. He likes to come in and try to confuse our minds when it comes to those different things, whether you're content or you're being complacent, whether you're actually being patient or you're being passive. Like the enemy will start to speak to you in these spaces because he knows what God has called you to. He wants to interrupt that as much as possible. So, these things will actually keep you stuck and making you think that, you're being unspiritual when you're making a certain decision. Well, I'm here to free you up. You're not being unspiritual. You're just trying to figure out what God is saying. And that's a really great habit to have, okay? So I want to give you a framework for discernment, all right? Because not every urge to leave, is God actually calling you out, So you got to discern when God is speaking. And not every reason to stay is God calling you to wait either, okay? So we got to discern the situation. So signs that God is asking you to wait. Number one, you're still learning something critical, right? Sometimes God will keep you in a place that probably makes you uncomfortable because he's trying to move you out of this comfort zone into the growth zone where you're actually going to grow. Okay, there's some type of lesson that you haven't learned yet, or a skill that you need to develop, or some type of character issue that you haven't resolved. He will keep you in a place until you actually can get out of that comfort zone into the space where he's able to grow you. See, Joseph had to stay in prison until his character caught up with his calling. David had to pretty much stay in the wilderness until his heart was really ready for the throne. So I need you to ask yourself right now, what is this season trying to teach me that I can't learn anywhere else? You might want to do a little bit of an assessment and ask yourself, what is it right now that this season is trying to teach me that I probably won't learn anywhere else? That's number one. Number two, God is speaking, is asking you to wait, is your leaving would hurt others unnecessarily, right? Your leaving might actually hurt some people, right? Unnecessarily. Sometimes God asks us to stay not for our sake, but for the sake of others who aren't ready for us to go yet. I actually had to sit with this because I was thinking of making a crazy decision and leaving from a place. And I actually sought wise counsel, and a person mentioned to me that, hey, if you leave, the grace of God might go with you. And I was like, the grace of God? Like, I'm not controlling the grace of God. I don't believe that 100% that if I leave, that his grace is going to be removed. But there is some truth in it. I think what that person was trying to explain to me is that, hey, you have a level of grace that's meant to bless the people here. You have to be careful making decisions to remove yourself. Not that I'm controlling anything or I need to be anywhere to do anything, but there is a level of grace that's needed right now in order for others to grow. And there is something that you're meant to grow in as well before he calls you out. So I had to slow my roll and be patient and allow God to do the work. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily mean you become like this hostage to some type of other people's growth and you never really move, but it does mean you need to consider the impact of your timing on the people God has called you to, that he's called you to serve. So you want to be careful when you're making a leap or you're jumping too soon. I want you to ask yourself, like, who actually would be negatively impacted if I leave right now? And is that impact necessary or is it selfish? Like, think about it. Think about it. Like, who's going to be impacted by your decision to leave? That's number 2. Number 3 is you don't have peace about any alternative. You really don't have peace. Okay, that may be a sign that God is asking you to wait, right? Sometimes God closes doors not because he wants to trap you, but because he wants to actually redirect you. He's going to close those things that are not meant for your good. He's only going to open things that he's asking you to walk through. Sometimes you definitely got to discern, because I know we have fear when there's a door that opens, but we have to discern whether or not he wants us to walk through or if it's us chasing some type of opportunity. If every door you're trying to walk through feels forced, maybe the door you're in is where you're supposed to be right now. Okay. So you need to ask yourself, do I have genuine peace about where I'm trying to go? Or am I just trying to escape where I am? Like, ask yourself that question. Do I have peace about this? Or am I just trying to escape where I am? All right. Those are signs that God probably wants you to wait. Now, let's transition for a second. Signs God might be asking you to leave. Okay. Drink some tea. All right. So, number 1, signs he may be asking you to leave. The first one is this: you're no longer really growing. If you're not being stretched, challenged, or developed in your current assignment, it might be time to move. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're not being stretched, it might be time to move. God doesn't call us to comfort zones, okay? He calls us to growth zones. And in order to get to the growth zone, it is uncomfortable. You have to uncomfort yourself to get to the growth zone. Doesn't feel good. So I want you guys to ask yourself, am I still becoming who God called me to be in this place? Or am I maintaining who I used to be? That's what I want you to ask yourself. All right. The second thing God may be asking you to leave is your gifts are being wasted. If your current assignment isn't using the gifts God gave you, or worse, if it's asking you to operate outside your calling consistently, that's a red flag, y'all. So you may need to assess what's going on. Ask yourself, are my gifts being used, developed, and celebrated here? Or are they being ignored, underutilized, or misapplied? You really need to think about the gifts. Remember, God gives us gifts, right? He gives us those gifts and he wants them to be used to reach his people. If they're not being used, it may be time to go ahead and leave that place. All right. The third thing that you want to consider to help you discern whether or not God is asking you to leave is you have clear direction about where to go next, right? A lot of times, this one is easy because we feel called to a place, someone is requiring our services in some type of way, and it's very clear, oh, this is where God probably wants me to go. But make sure you're considering the other two things too before you make that decision, okay? So The biggest difference between running from something and running to something is clarity about the destination. If God has given you a clear vision for the next season, specific steps to take, whatever it is, peace of mind about the timing, that's different from just wanting to escape. Okay, God may be calling you to something different, to something new. So you need to ask yourself, do I know where I'm going? Or do I just know I don't want to be here no more? Like, do you actually know where you're going? Or is it I just don't want to be here? So be careful when you're discerning and making these decisions. Okay. All right. So you've determined that God is asking you to wait. Here's how to do it with grace instead of grumbling. Okay. First, I want you to find the gift in the delay. Every delay has a gift wrapped inside of it. Maybe it's preparation. Maybe it's protection. Maybe it's provision. So you got to find the gift in it. The question I want you to ask is, what is this delay trying to give me that I wouldn't receive if I left on my own timeline? All right. Number 2, I want you to serve with excellence. Serve excellently where you are. Okay. I love the quote by Dr. Martin Luther King that says, if he was a street sweeper, he would be the best doggone street sweeper there was. I've always admired that quote since I was a kid because I've always been a person that wanted to show up with excellence. Sometimes that would cross the lines with people pleasing and trying to, meet high expectations. But really, at the core and at the heart of it, I really just wanted to do an excellent job because I cared about my work and I cared about the people that I was serving. Colossians 3:23 says that whatever you do, you need to work at it with all your heart as working for God, not for human masters. And I've always favored that scripture because excellence it's important to me. So excellence in your current assignment is the key to your next assignment, right? And here's something that you can practice. Serve with the same energy you would if you had your dream role. The same energy that you're applying right now is going to show up in your dream role. How you do anything is how you do everything. Okay? Don't forget that, right? What you're doing right now is going to show up in your future. So make sure that you treat things with excellence so that you will have excellence in your future. All right. Number 3, if God is actually asking you to wait, you want to prepare for the next season. Just because you're staying doesn't mean you're not growing, okay? You want to use this time to develop your skills, to build relationships, and strengthen your spiritual foundation. I always coach people that, hey, when you're on a job, this is just an example. You're on a job and you have dreams to transition off that job to start your own business. Use the job to develop your skills. Use the job to fund your dream. Don't jump off the job too soon. I've said this so many times. Please make sure you slow down before you're making a huge leap. Use whatever the situation is to develop your skills. Build those relationships. You are going to need them. And strengthen your spiritual foundation. Let God fill you up so that you can be a good steward when you get to this next season, okay? So the strategy, ask yourself, what do I need to develop now so I am ready when God says go? You already know that he's calling you. So while you're there, you might as well get ready to go. So ask him, what do I need right now? What do I need? What can this current situation teach me? What can I learn here while I'm waiting? And then when God says go, you'll be ready to go. All right. Number 4 is seek God's heart, not just his hand. Okay. We can't just expecting God to just pump out these blessings. Like what? Sometimes we get so focused on what God is doing and what he can do for us that we miss who God is being in the process and how good he is, how he's taking care of us despite all the craziness that we've done or how we respond to him. The shift you need to make right now, instead of asking, when will this end? Or God, what can you do for me? You need to start asking, what are you showing me about me in this season? What are you showing me right now? What is it that I need to work on? What do I need to get out of my heart so that I can make good decisions in this next season? What is it? All right? Here's your assignment for the week, all right? I want you to have an honest conversation with God about your current season. I need you to ask him these 3 questions. Are y'all ready? What are you trying to teach me here? What am I supposed to be preparing for? Is this about my timing or your timing? Then I want you to listen. I want you to really listen to what he's saying. Not for the answer you want, Don't try to manipulate the word of God to fit what you want right now. Ooh, don't do that, please. But I want you to listen for the answer that he's giving. And remember, waiting on God it's not passive, y'all. You're not being passive when you're waiting on him. It's actually actively trusting that his timing is better than your timeline. That's what it's doing. All right. So if you're in a season of waiting that feels more like you're just wasting time, you're wasting all the energy and things like that, I want you to drop a response, a comment, a review below and tell me that you're struggling right now. I want to know. I want to pray for you, maybe even offer some encouragement to you. And then I want you to answer this question, like, what's one thing you can do this week, right now, this week, to thrive where you are instead of actually just surviving? How can you thrive where you are right now instead of surviving? And then I want you to share this episode with somebody who's struggling just like you, right? With this tension between staying or going. I know you probably heard someone this week talk about this. I hear someone almost once a week struggling to stay or to go. Sometimes we need someone else to really just remind us that God, his delays are not his denials, right? Until then, keep trusting the process and the one who actually is orchestrating it. See you next time.
You're looking for that freedom, freedom, freedom fight.